He didn't just refuse it, he tore it in half, right in front of her, in front of everyone. Ruth Palmer stood at the counter, 77 years old, hands shaking, watching the pieces of paper fall. The check her husband had left her, the only thing she had left, torn like it was garbage. Victor Ashford, the bank manager, let the pieces flutter to the marble floor. "This," he said loudly, "is worthless." Ruth's voice was barely a whisper. "But it's all I have." Victor looked at her with disgust. "Then you have nothing." Gasps echoed through the bank, 20 customers watching. Some pulled out phones, others looked away, uncomfortable. But no one helped, no one stopped him, except one person, a man sitting in the waiting area, quiet, simple clothes. He'd been there the whole time, watching, and now he stood up. But let me tell you how we got here, because to understand this moment, you need to know Ruth's story and the story of the man who'd been watching. And I promise you, by the end, you'll never judge someone by their appearance again. Ruth Palmer woke up that morning with one purpose: cash the check. It sat on her kitchen table, yellowed with age, issued 42 years ago from her husband Harold's pension, a check for $47,000. Harold had been a machinist, worked for Preston Industries for 36 years. When he retired in 1982, they'd given him a pension. But there was a problem. The company had been sold, changed hands 3 times, eventually dissolved. Harold had died 2 years after retiring. Heart attack, sudden. Ruth was 57 when she lost him. She tried to cash the pension check back then, but the bank said the company no longer existed. The funds were in legal limbo. "Come back when it's settled," they'd said. So Ruth waited. For 40 years she waited, living on Social Security, $847 a month, barely surviving. She'd sold the house, moved to a tiny apartment, sold her car, took the bus, stopped buying new clothes, ate 1 meal a day sometimes, all while that check sat in a drawer, a promise, a hope that someday it would be honored. Last month, Ruth got a letter from Preston Industries' Legal Settlement Fund. It said, "All outstanding pension obligations have been resolved. Original checks can now be honored. Please present to any branch of First National Bank." Ruth cried when she read it. 40 years, finally, she could cash Harold's check. $47,000, enough to live comfortably for the rest of her life, enough to stop worrying, enough to feel secure. So this morning, Ruth put on her best dress, the same one she'd worn to Harold's funeral, because it was the only nice one she had. She took the bus to First National Bank, waited in line for 20 minutes, and when her turn came, she approached the counter, handed the teller the check and the letter from the settlement fund. The teller, a young woman named Ashley, maybe 25, looked at the check. Her eyes widened. This is from 1982. "Yes," Ruth said, "but the settlement fund said it can be honored now." Ashley picked up the letter, read it, frowned. "I need to get my manager." She walked away, leaving Ruth standing there. A few minutes later, Ashley returned with Victor Ashford, 45 years old, expensive suit, gold watch, slicked back hair, the kind of man who wanted everyone to know he was important. He looked at Ruth, then at the check, and laughed. "Ma'am, this check is 42 years old." "I know, but the settlement—" "I don't care about a settlement letter. This check is expired." "But the letter says—" Victor held up his hand. "Checks expire after 6 months. This is ancient." He picked it up, looked at it like it was a joke. "Preston Industries doesn't even exist anymore." "I know, but then why are you wasting my time?" Ruth's voice trembled. "Because my husband worked there for 36 years. This is his pension. It's all I have." Victor's expression didn't change. "Well, it's worthless." He held the check between his hands, and before Ruth could react, he tore it, right down the middle. The sound was sharp, final. Ruth gasped. The entire bank went silent. Customers turned, stared. Victor let the 2 pieces fall. They fluttered to the floor, landing at Ruth's feet. "There," Victor said. "Now you don't have to worry about it anymore." Ruth couldn't breathe. She looked down at the torn check, Harold's signature visible on one half, the amount on the other, ripped apart like her life. "Why would you?" she whispered. "Because I don't have time for this. Take your worthless paper and leave." Ruth's knees almost gave out. She bent down, shaking, trying to pick up the pieces, her 77-year-old body protesting, but she had to save them, had to hold on to something, even if it was broken. People watched. Some looked angry, some looked sad, but nobody moved, nobody helped, except him, the man who'd been sitting in the waiting area. He stood up, walked forward, quietly. He wasn't tall, wasn't imposing, just average, maybe 52. Simple khaki pants, button-down shirt, no tie, work boots, the kind of man you'd pass on the street and never notice. He knelt beside Ruth, helped her pick up the pieces. "Let me help," he said gently. Ruth looked at him through tears. "Thank you." Together they collected both halves. The man stood, offered his hand, helped Ruth to her feet. Then he turned to Victor. "Can I see that?" he asked, gesturing to the torn check. Victor looked annoyed. "This doesn't concern you." "I'd like to see it anyway." Something in the man's voice made people pay attention. It was calm, but there was steel underneath. Victor hesitated, then waved dismissively. "Fine, look at it. It's garbage anyway." The man took the two pieces from Ruth, carefully fitted them together, read the check, read the letter. His expression didn't change, but his jaw tightened slightly. "Where did you get this?" he asked Ruth gently. "My husband, Harold Palmer. He worked for Preston Industries for 36 years. When did he retire?" 1984, 2 years after he retired." The man nodded, still reading. "And you've been trying to cash this for 40 years. Ruth's voice broke. "Yes, they kept saying the company was in legal trouble, that the funds were frozen, to wait. And you waited." "Yes." The man looked at Victor. "And you tore her check." Victor crossed his arms. "It's expired, worthless. I did her a favor." "Did you read the settlement letter?" "I don't need to. Checks expire. That's banking 101. The man held up the letter. "This letter is from Preston Industries Legal Settlement Fund. It explicitly states that all original pension checks can now be honored, regardless of age." Victor scoffed. "And who are you to interpret banking documents?" The man was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Can I use your phone?" Victor laughed. "My phone? No, you can leave, both of you." The man didn't move. He pulled out his own phone, made a call. "Patricia, it's William. I need you to pull up the Preston Industries settlement file." "Yes, now." He waited. The bank had gone completely silent, everyone watching. After a moment, William spoke again. "Confirm for me, are original pension checks valid under the settlement, even if issued decades ago?" A pause. "And they can be honored at any First National Bank?" Another pause. "Perfect. Thank you." He hung up, looked at Victor. "The checks are valid." Victor rolled his eyes. "I don't care what your friend said. It wasn't my friend. It was the chief legal officer of First National Bank." Victor's face changed. "What?" William held out his phone, showed the call log. "Patricia Morrison, chief legal officer, direct line." Victor stared. "How do you have her direct line?" "Because she works for me." The words hung in the air. "What?" William's voice was still calm, but now there was authority in it. "My name is William Hayes. I'm the majority shareholder and chairman of the board of First National Bank." You could have heard a pin drop. Victor went white. William continued. "I was here opening a personal checking account. I don't usually come to branches. I prefer to see how things actually work." He looked at the torn check. "And now I know exactly how things work." Victor's mouth opened, closed. No words came out. William turned to Ruth. "Mrs. Palmer, your check is valid. The settlement fund covers all pension obligations. You should have been able to cash this immediately." Ruth was crying. "But he tore it." "I know." William looked at Victor. "And that was his last official act as manager of this branch." Victor found his voice. "You can't." "I can, and I am.
"You're fired, effective immediately." He gestured to security. "Please escort Mr. Ashford." 2 security guards approached. Victor backed away. "This is insane. Over some old woman's ancient check?" William's voice go cold. "No, over how you treated her." He stepped closer. "You humiliated a 77-year-old woman in front of everyone. You destroyed her property. You called her a waste of time." His voice dropped. "You did exactly what someone did to me 28 years ago." Stopped. William continued. "I was 24, just out of college, broke. My mother was sick. I had a check from a scholarship fund, $5,000. He looked at the floor. I went to a bank to cash it, and the manager looked at me in my cheap suit, my worn shoes, and laughed, said it looked fake, tore it up, threw..."
"Help me out." The bank was silent. I had to beg the scholarship office to reissue it. It took 3 months. My mother almost died because I couldn't afford her medicine. William looked at Victor. "You're that manager. And she," he gestured to Ruth, "is me." He turned to security. "Get him out." They escorted Victor away. He was shouting, threatening lawsuits, but no one cared. William turned to Ashley, the teller. "Can you help Mrs. Palmer?" Ashley nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." William handed her the torn check. "This needs to be honored, full amount, today, and I want any fees waived." "Yes, sir, right away." William turned to Ruth. "Mrs. Palmer, I apologize on behalf of this bank. That should never have happened." Ruth couldn't speak, just cried. William gently guided her to a chair. "Please, sit. They'll take care of everything." Ashley worked quickly. Within 20 minutes, she had everything processed. The check, despite being torn, was honored. $47,000 deposited into a new account, fees waived, full access immediately. When Ashley brought Ruth the receipt, Ruth stared at it. "It's real?" she whispered. "It's real," Ashley said softly. Ruth broke down. 40 years. Finally. William sat beside her, didn't say anything, just sat until she was ready. After a few minutes, Ruth looked at him. "Thank you." William shook his head. "You don't need to thank me. But you saved..." "No. Someone saved me once when I was in your position." Ruth wiped her eyes. "What happened?" William smiled. "After that manager tore up my check, I sat outside the bank, crying. I was 24 and I had nothing." He looked at his hands. "An old man walked by, saw me, asked what was wrong. I told him." "What did he do?" "He walked into that bank, talked to the manager. I don't know what he said, but 10 minutes later they apologized, gave me cash, the full amount." William's voice was soft. "The old man wouldn't tell me his name, just said, 'Someday you'll be able to help someone else. When that day comes, do it.'" He looked at Ruth. "Today is that day." Ruth reached out, took his hand. "Your mother, is she..." William smiled sadly. "She passed away 5 years ago, but she lived 23 years after that day, happy, healthy, because I could afford her medicine." "What was her name?" "Helen. Helen Hayes." Ruth squeezed his hand. "She raised a good man." William's eyes glistened. "She raised a man who remembers where he came from." "By the way, where are you watching this from? Drop your location in the comments. I love knowing where these stories reach." 2 hours later, Ruth left the bank with a debit card and $47,000 in her account. For the first time in 40 years, she felt secure. William walked her out. "Do you need a ride?" he asked. "The bus is fine. Please, let me." He drove her home himself in his truck, not a fancy car, just a regular truck, because William Hayes, despite being worth millions, had never forgotten what it felt like to have nothing. When they arrived at Ruth's tiny apartment, she invited him in for tea. William accepted. They sat in her small kitchen, drinking tea from chipped cups, talking about Harold, about Helen, about life. And before William left, Ruth said something. "You're rich now, powerful, but you didn't act like it." William smiled. "Because I'm not those things. I just have money. There's a difference." He looked around her humble apartment. The richest person I ever met was my mother. She had nothing, but she taught me everything that mattered. He stood. Thank you for the tea, Mrs. Palmer. Thank you for seeing me. William paused at the door. You know what the hardest part of being poor is? Ruth nodded. Being invisible. Exactly. People look through you like you don't exist. He turned. That manager today, he looked through you like you were nothing. And you saw me, because someone saw me when I was invisible. He opened the door. Take care of yourself, Mrs. Palmer. You too, Mr. Hayes. After he left, Ruth sat in her kitchen, looking at the debit card, thinking about Harold, about 40 years of waiting, about a man who could have walked past, but didn't. 3 months later, Ruth did something unexpected. She called William. Mr. Hayes, this is Ruth Palmer. Mrs. Palmer, how are you? I'm well, thank you. I was wondering, could we meet? They met at a coffee shop. Ruth brought a folder. I've been thinking, she said, about what you said, about helping others. William listened. I don't need $47,000. I'm 77. I live simply. She opened the folder. I want to create a fund for people like me, people with old checks that banks won't honor, people who've been waiting. William looked at the papers. She'd already worked it out. $40,000 to establish a fund, the Harold Palmer Memorial Fund, to help people who fall through the cracks. William's eyes filled with tears. Mrs. Palmer, will your bank administer it? Yes, absolutely, yes. He took her hands. But you should keep that money for yourself. Ruth shook her head. I have enough. I have Social Security. I have $7,000 saved now. I'll be fine. She smiled. Harold would want this. He hated when companies didn't honor their promises. William nodded. Then we'll do it. The Harold Palmer Memorial Fund. He paused. And I'll match it, dollar for dollar, $80,000. Ruth started crying. You don't have to. I want to. For Harold, for you, for Helen, for that old man who helped me. He squeezed her hands. We'll help a lot of people, Mrs. Palmer. And they did. Over the next 5 years, the fund helped 127 people. People with old pension checks, settlement checks, insurance checks that companies tried to deny. All because Ruth Palmer took the worst moment of her life and turned it into help for others. William visited Ruth every month, brought her groceries, fixed things in her apartment, just spent time with her. They became family, not by blood, but by choice. And when Ruth passed away at 82, peacefully in her sleep, William was there. He'd been reading to her favorite book. She'd closed her eyes and didn't open them again. At her funeral, William spoke. Ruth Palmer taught me something I thought I already knew, but I didn't, not really. He looked at the small crowd, mostly people from the fund, people Ruth had helped. She taught me that dignity isn't something you have, it's something you give. His voice broke. A bank manager tried to take hers by tearing a check, by treating her like nothing. But she didn't let him. She stayed dignified, even when humiliated. He wiped his eyes. And then she took the money she'd waited 40 years for, money she desperately needed, and gave it most of it away, because she knew what it felt like to wait, to be ignored, to be invisible. And she didn't want anyone else to feel that way. William looked at her photo. Ruth, you were never invisible. Not to me, not to the people you helped, not to anyone who mattered. Thank you for teaching me, one more time, what it means to be rich. The Harold Palmer Memorial Fund still exists, now called the Ruth and Harold Palmer Memorial Fund. William increased the endowment to $2 million. It helps hundreds of people every year, people with old checks that banks won't honor, people who've been waiting, people who are invisible. And above the fund's office in the First National Bank headquarters hangs a photograph of Ruth and Harold Palmer, young, happy, standing in front of Preston Industries, Harold in his work clothes, Ruth smiling, before life got hard, before Harold died, before 40 years of waiting. Just two people who deserved dignity and finally got it, because one man remembered what it felt like to be torn apart and chose to help someone else get put back together. The lesson? Never judge someone by their appearance. The old woman with the ancient check might have waited 40 years for justice. The quiet man in simple clothes might own the bank. The person you humiliate today might be someone's last hope, and the person you help might help hundreds more. Victor Ashford tore a check to show his power. William Hayes honored it to show his character. One lost his job, the other gained a family. Ruth Palmer waited 40 years for a check to be honored, and when it finally was, she gave it away to help others who were waiting, who were invisible, who deserved to be seen. If this story touched you, drop a heart in the comments. Share it with someone who needs to remember that everyone deserves dignity. Follow for more stories about quiet heroes and the power of being seen. And the next time you see someone struggling, someone old or poor or desperate, remember Ruth, remember William. Remember that dignity isn't about what you have, it's about how you treat people, especially when they have nothing. The check was torn, but the woman wasn't broken, and the man who helped her wasn't trying to be a hero. He was just remembering what it felt like to need help and making sure someone else got it. That's all any of us can do. Remember and help when it matters most.